Hi everyone, Chef Robbie here. First off, I wanted to thank all of you for continuing to support the villa during this COVID-19 pandemic. And as most of you know, San Francisco has shut down um, indoor dining for the time being. So, with that being said, going forward, the villa will be offering some fun new items, virtual events, cooking lessons from myself, and this is where we'll be started today. I thought with the weather changing, it's being cold, I thought it'd be fitting to do a nice risotto. It's a favorite Italian dish. It's really hearty, it's versatile, and it's great during these winter months. So I'd like to share the recipe that we use here at the villa with you all. And so we'll start to go over the recipe and all the tools you need, and we'll get going. Okay, so the recipe for this risotto is pretty simple. Here it is. I'll hold it up to the camera. So the first thing that you need is your rice. Here at the villa, we use a rice called Acquerello. So Acquerello is a carnoroli rice. It comes from the Piemonte region of Italy. If you can't find this, which you can find probably at a specialty store, or I know you can get it on Amazon. If you can't find that, you can always use an Aborrio rice or just another carnoroli rice. You should be able to find it at any grocery store. So we're going to start with 2 cups of carnoroli rice. I like to actually store my black truffles in the rice. It keeps the truffles nice and dry, and it starts to flavor the rice as well. So you can store your truffle in your container of rice, throw it in the refrigerator for probably up to 2 weeks, and then you can cook your rice. The rice will have a really great truffle aromatic smell. So we have our 2 cups of rice. We have our black truffle. I have a quart of chicken stock on the stove that you'll see later. It should be hot. Just helps the cooking process. We're going to need 1 white onion, a half a cup of your favorite dry white wine for cooking. I have some Parmesan cheese that we'll use to finish the risotto. I have, you can use butter, but I have some truffle butter that will help also with the truffle flavor, obviously. But you can just use truffle butter. We're going to need salt, black pepper. I have a lemon to also just to add some acid. And then I have some thyme, bay leaf, and some chives. And that's pretty much all you need as far as ingredients for a risotto. Like I said before, risotto is really versatile. You can add any kind of cheese. You can use any kind of stock. You don't need to use chicken stock. You can throw in roasted vegetables, really anything. So tools you'll need today. You'll need a sharp knife to cut the onions, the chives, if you decide to use chives. You'll need a wooden spoon for stirring. For the truffle, you'll need a truffle shaver or maybe a microplane. Those are the 2 best tools. We are going to be offering kits with black truffles and the rice and the truffle shavers as well. So if you don't have one, you can definitely get them from us. And you'll also need a ladle for your stock. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, we will start the lesson. Okay, so we have all our mise en place here. The first thing we're going to start with, we're going to turn on our pot. We have 1 pot for the risotto. We have 1 pot with our hot chicken stock. Okay, so we're going to turn on our pan. Medium-high heat. We're going to start with about 2 tablespoons of your cooking oil. You can use whatever cooking oil you have at home, canola, olive oil. Here we use a blend of canola and olive oil. You don't want to use an extra virgin olive oil for cooking. And I say that because the smoking point of extra virgin is quite low. So if you get it too hot, it'll start to have an off taste in your food. So I would stick with just regular olive oil or a blend oil or canola oil, corn oil, whatever you like. So we have 2 tablespoons of oil in there. Just going to let it get heat up the pan a little bit. We're going to add our onions. When you add your onions, I always like to season them right away. It helps draw the moisture out. It just helps with the cooking process. So we're going to cook this until it becomes translucent. You don't want to get a lot of color on your onions. So we're just going to cook this up probably 2 to 3 minutes. It'll be nice and ready. After this, we will add our rice. And we'll begin the actual cooking of the rice. The entire process is probably going to take anywhere between 25 and 35 minutes, typically. So once we get going, we'll take a break and come back with just the finished product. One thing that I don't have on the pantry list that is kind of cool that you could also throw in this risotto is it's called a black truffle pate. You can find this at almost any grocery store, definitely like a Whole Foods or a Draeger supermarket or something like that. And it's, once again, it's just going to add to the truffle flavor. So if you really want it to taste like truffle, this is something that you could add to it. It's also great if you wanted like a truffle aioli, just throw that in with some mayonnaise. Great product. So, as you can see, our onions are getting cooked in there. Nice and translucent looking. So at this point, take your truffle out of your rice. You don't want to throw that in with the rice. We're going to take our rice, just going to add it to the pot. And at this point, what we're trying to do is toast the rice a little bit. So you're going to want to keep it moving, keep it moving. If you let it sit in one place, you'll start to burn the rice. So you just want to move it around, add a little bit of salt. Seasoning as you go is a very, very important step that a lot of people forget. A lot of people like to cook, and then at the end, when everything's almost finished, they throw in a ton of salt. That could lead to your product being oversalted, as salt crystals take some time to dissolve. So if you season as you go, you don't really have to worry about that. So season as you go, taste your food as you go. It's very important. Okay, so we're toasting the rice. Next, we're going to take our wine. What's called deglazing the pan. So the acid in the wine pulls anything off of the bottom of the pan. A lot of those sugars and carbohydrates and the starches from the rice that are coming off stick to the bottom of the pan. And that's all flavor. So we're going to add our wine, half a cup of wine. We're going to scrape the bottom of the pan. And at this point, we can also add, I have a couple sprigs of thyme, a bay leaf. This will just add some nice depth flavor to our risotto. So we're going to cook off. We are going to cook off the alcohol in the wine. So with about the amount of wine we took, it'd probably take about a minute to cook it off. And the way that you know if your alcohol is all cooked off is you just give it a smell. So you can kind of waft it to your nose, give it a smell. You can smell the alcohol, or you can actually feel the alcohol. The alcohol will kind of burn your nose a little bit. So once that doesn't happen, it smells kind of sweet. You don't smell the alcohol anymore. Then we can continue to the next step, which is adding our stock. So this is the long process. So the alcohol's good and cooked off. So now for risotto, it is a slow cooking process. So we're going to slowly add our stock. We're just going to cover the rice, just enough stock to cover the rice. And it is very important also that you continue to stir. The rice will get stuck to the bottom and burn if you do not stir. This rice is very starchy, so if you don't continue to stir, then you'll have uneven cooked rice, and you'll probably have some burnt spots on the bottom of your pot. So we're going to season just a little bit more. Add some pepper as well. Okay, and we're just going to stir, stir, stir. So you're going to stir. Like I said, this is going to take 25 to 35 minutes probably. So we're going to keep stirring until you cook out all the stock. Once all the stock is cooked out, you're going to add more stock. And then when you're stirring, you don't need to be vigorous. You don't need to. You can be gentle with it. Just make sure you're getting everything off, and make sure everything's nice and even in there. Okay, so I've cooked out the stock. There's no more residual stock in there. We're going to add some more, and this is the process. Just add stock, stir, add stock and stir, season a little bit every time. And when I mean a little bit, it's like half of a pinch. Okay, we're just going to keep stirring. There's also a myth out there that says you're only supposed to stir in one direction. A lot of my old chefs, when they were teaching me how to make risotto, they said you can only stir in one direction, and that's not true. So if anyone ever tells you that, it's not going to make a difference in the outcome of your rice. It's just a little myth. Alright, we've got the stock evaporated again. We're going to add more stock. Every time you add the stock, it's just enough to cover the rice. Barely cover the rice, as you can see that in there. Now you can also use risotto as like a side dish if you had an ossobuco, or chicken breast or roast chicken. It's a great accompaniment to your heartier meats. and things like that, as well as, you know, just by itself. It's definitely hearty enough to be its own meal. Okay, so we're about 85–90% done now. I have about 1 or 2 more ladles full of stock, and you can see that it's getting nice and creamy. I haven't added any butter, I haven't added any cheese yet, so we're just gonna keep stirring. Add a little more salt. We're gonna give it a taste. It's really nicely seasoned now. It's not too salty. It's not undersalted. Now we are going to add some Parmesan cheese at the end. That will also, add some residual salts to the finished dish. So you don't want to over season it in the beginning. We're just going to keep stirring. We're almost home. So once we're, cooked 100%, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the heat off the stove, and then we'll finish the risotto. And by that, I mean we will add our truffle butter, we'll add our Parmesan cheese. If you have truffle paste, you can add truffle paste. You can also grate fresh black truffle right in as well. But for this purpose, we're going to shave it on top. Or why not both, right? We're almost there. At this point, you should still have your thyme and your bay leaf in there. So I'm just going to pick out the sprigs. Just so you're not biting into it at the end. Got our bay leaf, our thyme sprig. The leaves are still in there. They fell off, but that's a-okay. Alright, dry again. I'm going to add the last of the stock. Okay. Just going to continue to stir here. This rice is really amazing. What makes it creamy is all the starch is being released from the rice and just connecting with each other. It's really beautiful to watch happen, to go from this dry rice to this gorgeous, gorgeous risotto. Give it another taste here, see how close we are to being finished. Just a few more minutes. last test. All right, I think we are there. Another little thyme sprig. Gonna pull that out. So our rice is done. So at this point, we're going to turn off the heat. I'm going to add our truffle butter. I'm going to stir that in. If you have your truffle pate, this is the same, at the same time you would add it right now. So a little bit goes a long way with this stuff. So that was half a teaspoon for your 2 cups of rice. All right. We're going to add our cheese now. Now you're going to add as much cheese as you like, so maybe add a little bit, give it a taste. We're also going to give a little squeeze of lemon juice to kind of brighten it up because it's going to be really, really heavy and unctuous. A little lemon juice, we added our Parmesan cheese. Alright. Give it our last test. I think it's fantastic. Maybe a little bit more black pepper. So at this point also, you could add your fresh herbs if you'd like to. So I'll add a little bit of chive in there, parsley or whatever you have. Give it a little fold. Okay. And that's our risotto. We'll come over here and plate it up. So we're going to plate up our finished risotto here. I have a bowl. You can use a plate. You can use really anything that you got. Okay, so we're going to take our risotto, spoon it in there, a little wiggle. And now for the moment of truth, we have our black truffle with our truffle shaver. And then if you have any finishing olive oil that you like to use, go ahead and use that. I have a little bit here, just a couple dollops, and that's it. That's our truffle risotto from the Villa Taverna.